Yeah, so first of all, podcasts, as everyone knows, are incredibly popular now. The explosion we've seen over the last, 5, 6, 7 years has been pretty exponential. I think depends on who you ask, but there's something like 4 or 5 million podcasts around in the world right now. They're incredibly popular, and for so many reasons. First of all, podcasting is such a trusted medium. So people have to give podcasting their full attention. You can't, have you ever tried to listen to a podcast whilst watching TV or something? You can't do it. So people are so invested in podcasts, they're giving it their full attention. They're massively important in the attention economy. And of course, therefore, advertisers want to be wherever consumers are engaged, right? So it naturally follows that podcasts are so important within the media mix because they're so effective. Podcasters are so trusted, and they have consumers more or less full attention. I would also say that we've done a lot of research, and there's a lot of research out there that shows that podcasting is incredibly effective in terms of bang for your buck. So, we've got data that shows that the return on ad spend for podcasting is so much higher than so many other mediums. I think there's something that we found, which is around, podcast marketers say that for every dollar they invest in podcast advertising, they see about $4 to $6 back in terms of return on ad spend, which is incredibly effective. So, and the final thing, if I may, is that, what made podcast advertising famous is that classic host read, the sponsorship, where your favorite podcaster is talking to you very naturally about products or brands that they've enjoyed. And we actually find that listeners actively enjoy a lot of that kind of advertising, because it is engaging, it is personalized, and podcasters are able to put their own stamp on it. So when you put all that together, that's why podcasting is so important, I would say. So I think one of the biggest challenges actually is if you look at discovery. So discovery has always been hard in podcasts. First of all, for listeners to discover podcasts, because if you think about TV, for example, now, the way we consume TV, there's all these different apps. It's quite fragmented, whether it's, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Now, whatever. It's quite hard. There's no one central place like in the olden days. I say the olden days, but when you used to have like a Sky, like an EPG on Sky, there is no EPG guide for podcasts. You can't just flick on something and see all the podcasts in the world. So that's been hard. And therefore, if that's hard for listeners, it's also hard for advertisers, I would say, in terms of knowing like what podcasts are out there and where to put their money. And what that has meant is that invariably you get that effect where the biggest, most famous, the biggest sort of, I suppose, either celebrity or brand-led podcasts have been the target for advertisers. So actually, we at Acast have been trying to change that and actually encourage advertisers to think more in terms of audience first. Because if you think about it, if there's all these podcasts in the world, even if they've got 100 listens, 100,000 listens, whatever, those are incredibly engaged listeners, which advertisers are going to want to reach. So I would say one thing that we're trying to encourage is for advertisers to think more about buying audience first and labeling them to do that. So to think, who am I trying to reach? And actually finding those podcasts, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 50 different podcasts through which they're going to be able to reach them. That was a really quick answer to a really big question. But I think that discovery is one of the biggest challenges for sure.